Galion. This is Mayor Tom O'Leary, back from City Hall to update Galionites on the status of city government and answer any questions that are out there regarding city government or the direction of Galion overall. Have been working since we got out, were released from fiscal emergency by the state auditor at putting together the 19 budget. So 2019 is very much in the forefront of our minds here in the mayor's office, and working with the auditor to put together the first draft of next year's budget that'll be looked at actually on Halloween by the City Finance Committee. So that'll be a couple more weeks to work on. And I think a summary, real briefly, is that the city's general fund looks to be in pretty strong shape. But after 4 years in which we're in a period where we actually lowered water and sewer rates, looks like there could be some need to look on the council side at sewer rates, and within the service director, within the mayor's office, discussion of any sort of water rates. So this past year, the big water line break on Harding Way really took had quite an impact on the water fund, and so we're going to look at that. We need to be able to be in a position that if we have an emergency, we can react quickly like we did earlier this year, and also the need to be able to plan future capital improvements is going to be a real important focus of this budget. So that's really occupying most of my time in City Hall, and moving from the end of the parks year and through the very abbreviated fall season, and with one eye on the ice and snow. I think everyone got a little bit of a wake up Friday night when we got a dusting and sort of a surprise preview, but certainly not something that required any kind of response on behalf of the city. So with those introductory comments, we'll get into what's on your mind, and then wrap up by talking about a little bit of construction work on two of our major highways that'll be going on between now and the end of the construction season. So what do we got in terms of questions?
Okay, Mayor. First question tonight comes from Cindy. She asks, any plans for the land where the Neff's building was torn down?
I think that the answer is community action will retain ownership of that. And really the hope, I believe, of both the Community Action Commission and of folks at City Hall is that will be redeveloped into residential building lots that really haven't been surveyed and look at minimum lot sizes. But once the Neff building is down, I think that's an ideal place, given the fact that utilities are there. And between where the Community Action Commission office is, the old Palmer House, and Bender Drive on the east, going east on Bueller, there's quite a few lots there, and that's really the main plan for that real estate once the Neff building is demoed and reseeded and ready to go.
Okay, thank you. Next question comes from Dawn. She asks, when is opening day for Valero?
You know, I don't think that date has been set. I remember earlier in the year, and we were getting ready to let our highway and stormwater project out there to facilitate them coming in. Really concerned about having our roadway work done before the actual project was completed. It looks, just from the curbside, it looks like they're a couple of weeks away. I know that tomorrow night there's, I think, some signage issues that are going to come up. It's not really tomorrow night, but there's a request for a little bit taller sign than our regulations permit. I believe that will go to Board of Zoning Appeals pretty soon. So that's one of the outstanding issues. But to answer your question, Dawn, we really haven't got an exact date. They were hoping for September. Certainly that's come and gone.
Okay, now we have two questions, kind of a similar topic. First, Mark asked, the school has cleared land now. What is this section being cleared for? And then in relation to that, Dawn asked who bought all of the land near Hesby Drive.
Well, there's two. The clearing of land and the project that has started over on the school campus is the bus garage project. The city's role in that is pretty much in the rearview mirror, except for extending electric when the proper time comes, so that they can have the electric necessary to run that maintenance shop and bus garage. Really, three owners on the question of ownership out of the Hesby auction. There's a large individual property owner who bought a large portion of it, close to 23 acres, and her plan is to develop it both some of the property for residential, and then she has an idea of some commercial development, nothing in terms of a shopping center, but just some light commercial activity. There are two other parcels, one that was bought by the existing operator of the ashtray, so that now they'll control their own destiny in terms of owning their own building, their own property. I think that's a great step forward for the customers and the ownership of that building. And then the other property is really that sets east of the existing Prince and Paints property, and in behind, if you will, if you excuse that expression, in behind Burger King. That was bought by the Frank Houses, and I think that'll give them some expansion. It also squares up their lot a little bit. So those are the three property owners, and have spoken indirectly with a couple of them, actually directly with a couple of them, and indirectly with one of them about their plans. And I think I'm happy that the Hesby estate is out from under it, and now we have three motivated owners there to really see that property develop.
Okay, thanks, Mayor. Those are all the questions we have as of right now.
Well, let me forecast then, or let you know, give you the heads up on a couple of highway projects that will be taking place next week or the week after. One, it will be the asphalt, the removal of asphalt and the replacement at the corner, what would be the northwest corner of the Harding Way, Portland Way intersection, in front of Sheber's, Phil's Deli, and Riverside. I think people familiar with that section of Bucyrus Road know that particularly that westbound lane, the curb side of that's in really rough shape. So we're going to have that milled out, asphalt put in there, and that really ought to hold that section of state route until about 3 years from now, when all of the state routes in Galion will be resurfaced in a plan that we've been working on with ODOT over the last year or so. That project, I think, will be 2 or 3 days. Certainly, our hope is to have that completed in a week. But using that part of that intersection going from Portland Way to Harding Way, west, Harding Way becoming Bucyrus Road in many people's minds. Look for some construction equipment and some lanes being taken while that's under construction. The other section is something that we really hoped we wouldn't have to get into, but are going to tackle. We knew we were going to do some repairs on Portland Way South, and that relatively new section of concrete pavement. We've decided to go ahead and get it done this year, and so there'll be essentially 6 phases. There are 4 sections of the concrete that are in need of repair already. And what we're going to do is put up traffic signals and try to hold the traffic in one direction, move you through what will be a really small construction zone, and then move from one section going southbound. There'll be 3 phases, if you will. One about where Rosewood is. Another is just north of Sunnyside. Probably the worst section of that project in terms of failure at this early date. And then there are 2 sections similarly deteriorated in and around Henry Street and up near the Mill Creek nursing home. So that those two will be repaired at the same time. So the contractor will come and repair southbound and then flip that over and do northbound in 6 phases. The total duration is 2 weeks, but I've got to be honest with you, for 2 weeks it's going to be, expect some long lines, particularly rush hours, Friday afternoons and those sorts of things. And heaven help us when we have a stop train during that period, because that'll make an already frustrating and difficult traffic maintenance situation that much more to holler about. So that should be taking place right at the end of October, the first part of November, and with concrete pavement, we have no real concerns about the temperature affecting our ability to get those repairs done. So those are two high-profile projects that will be happening over the next 2 or 3 weeks. In addition to that, we're going to do a fair amount of resurfacing in the commercial alleys in the areas between Union Street and down and running parallel to Harding Way on both the north and the south side, taking care of some of the worst sections that run in those alleys right behind our commercial uptown area. So those people who use that know exactly what I'm talking about. Those people who haven't been there, you're not missing anything, and we certainly know that for the commercial customers and for the merchants uptown, that getting this done is something that many of them will appreciate, and it's certainly within our resources, and I think a good way to get those alleyways that are in pretty bad shape brought back up to a passable condition as we go into winter months.
Okay. Next, we have 2 questions, both about an update on a grocery store for Galion.
Well, yeah, there's 2 questions. There are, I guess, without being flippant about it, there's probably 2 opportunities. Spoke with the owner of this shopping center late last week, and they are working with a couple of prospects, excuse me, and the thought is that one or two of those will be in place. Again, trying to get the property free of any liens is one of the things they're working on, and the owner seems to be encouraged, and there are at least 2 people interested in going in once they get some of the issues involving resupplying the shopping center. If that can be done here relatively soon, the landlord, if you will, the owner of the shopping center, thought that they might be able to be in limited operation by as early as late this year, certainly early next year. We were talking before we went on air about how important that would be to get another grocery store in town as we enter the winter months, and the convenience and the safety of being able to go to an adjacent community to stock up on groceries, it becomes a little less practical. And so getting another full-service grocery store in town remains top priority. And as it comes up in nearly every day, if you're a social media person, you can see some sort of comment about it in your network of friends, and it remains in the forefront of our minds here at City Hall. But as I've said a few other times, it's really up to the people involved in the business side to really put this together, and I really see that the city's role in this is probably pretty limited, although we'd be open to any kind of request for some sort of incentives or whatever it would take to push a new operator up over the hump and get them back in business here for Galion and the surrounding market.
Okay, thanks, Mayor. Next question comes from Gene. He asks, are we getting a bridge for 309 South?
No. I mean, I believe what we're talking about here is a railroad bridge. Correct. There's really not anything immediate in the works. It's at least a $10 million project, and I said no just for effect. There really is nothing in the works about that, and unless there's some additional federal funds for doing it. The amount of ODOT funds available for that kind of project is they're relatively limited, and what we'd have to do, in my view, once 598 is widened in 2020, 2021, in that frame, that time frame, it would make sense to begin the planning that would be necessary to have another railroad bridge there on the southwest end of town. But nothing immediately, and I just if there was a magic pool of funds, we'd go trying to swim in that pool and come up with some gold, but that really isn't the case, and so that's where we are on that.
Okay, nothing further tonight.
Well, I'd have to say thank you for listening. I know it has a bit of a monotone. I can hear it my own. I can hear my voice. It's I've been suffering with a bad cold like a lot of other people, so I wanted to thank you for tuning in, putting up with the monotone, and I'll try to be back with a little livelier radio voice and my usual TV face when we get together 2 weeks from tonight. Good night, everyone.